Hi, welcome to Dogman Teepee Hunting. And if you're listening to this, it will be on the Interdimensional Voyagers podcast. Um, I'd like to introduce you to a lovely lady that has agreed to come on. Her name is Andrea Schneider, all the way from America. Um, and she's an experiencer. And I'm going to see what she's willing to share and what she isn't willing to share with us. If you'd like you to welcome on Andrea Schneider.
Thank
Hello,
you
Andrea.
very much. Hi,
You're
how are
welcome.
you?
All right, yeah, good, very well, thank you. It's cooled down a bit here now, Andrea. It's like we had a lot of storms and thunder and lightning and a lot of rain.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Same here.
have you? Oh, right, okay, that's good. Yeah. Have you had flooding?
I'm sorry?
Have you had any flooding?
What does
Flooding
that
in
mean?
like flood waters, like the rivers
Oh,
breaking bank.
flooding.
Yeah.
No, not here, but in Texas.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I know there's been some really freak weather lately. A lot of really strange
Yeah,
weather going on. Yeah.
yes, I
Um,
agree.
so you're, if you don't mind, if you only, tell us what you're happy in telling us, but if you can give us a bit of a breakdown on who Andrea Schneider is and why you want to be on the show, why you want to be here.
Well, I love um, listening to people and their stories. I love learning and um, and I love sharing with other people and getting their views on this whole Bigfoot and alien phenomena. Um, I was always the black sheep of the family. My brothers and sisters were married and out of the house. Um, I do remember at 14 years old, a man came to my parents' house, and I never met him before. But my father was a photographer and knew a lot of people. And by that time, everyone was out of the house. It was me and my baby brother. I don't think was thought of yet. But I remember this man came over, and I remember her sitting on the couch with my dad, and my mom was sitting on the chair, and I was just sitting on the floor listening to the story. And mind you, um, I'm all about music. I'm all about being a groupie and meeting people and fascinated with music and art. And he starts telling this story. Sorry. He starts telling this story about driving on 21 in Massillon, Ohio, and a cigar shaped craft was following alongside his car. And, and an ape like man was staring back at him. And I'm thinking, okay, whatever. I'm only 14 and I really don't care. But I just thought that was kind of interesting and it always stuck in the back of my mind. But I never thought of anything of it until later. Some friends wanted to go see this guy, Mark DeWorth, in Ohio. And he was putting on some kind of show. He had a tape about Bigfoot. I thought, okay, let's go check it out. So we were at this, talk, and he shows this video of, well, his story goes he was at Wills Creek in Ohio. It's called the Sasquatch Triangle.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently he went with some friends and he had, there were three of them. And this was kind of the time where there was a man, he was shooting hunters, some crazy guy. He was in the paper. And so he thought, every time he heard a footstep, follow his footstep, he'd stop and it would stop. he started getting scared thinking it was this man.
Mhm.
So he goes into this little gully and he's sitting on the side of the rock. And he said this was the time that the video cameras just came out. And he said, like any other guy, he didn't read directions. He just pulled it out and he's, sitting there. He's scared and he sees these branches moving back and forth, like swaying back and forth. And then he thought, geez, there's no, there's no, there's no wind. So why are these moving? So he takes his camera and he zooms in on it and he sees this little ape-like face peeking from behind the tree. So he shows this video, and I'm like enthralled, and I'm thinking, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe this." So, so then I was hooked. So, they had, castings of the Bigfoot. They had castings of this and that, and I found out later that he has a Bigfoot conference at South Fork State Park. So I thought, well, okay, I'll go check this out. So I go there,
Mm.
and um, every year is different. I am the kind of person that will sit back and listen to other people's stories and kind of introduce myself and, just be nosy, I guess, as if you want to say
Yeah.
that. I heard that this guy had a sighting, and it was during the time that these two guys were doing fishing on the lake. It was a tournament, and they see a male and a female on the beach. So um, they went and told Mark DeWorth, what they had saw. And so this Walter Tippy, heard, well, he said to his friends, let's go down tomorrow morning, early, and we'll go um, check out, that the beach side. So he shows up in the morning and nobody's there. So he thought either they left without him or perhaps, you know, they 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 were late. I don't know. He didn't know what to do. So he left and he is walking on the Shadbush Trail and he hears some I don't know, some talking, but it was in English. And so he looked over his left shoulder and he said, "Hey, wait for me, guys." So when he looked at, he saw this male and the female Sasquatch, and so he said he ran and he went to take a picture of it. So I thought, oh my God, this is so exciting. So all the time I wanted to meet this Walter Tippy, and every year I would go and I would try to listen to you know different people's stories, and I
Mm.
met the speakers from Finding Bigfoot, and just had a lot of fun. I just loved having fun and going out at night and exploring. So anyway, one year I finally meet this Walter Tippy, and he's talking to these two girls from Charlotte, Carolina. And I said, "Excuse me, are you Walter Tippy? I heard you had this picture." And so I was looking for it on the internet. I finally found it. And I said, "Can you take us to the spot where you had the sighting?" So he said,
Yeah.
"Yeah, sure." So this was before the how do you say, the family picnic at 12 o'clock during the day, and so there was a bunch of us. It was his family and these two girls, and one of the girls had a son and a daughter, and me. So we go on this trail and we're walking, and this girl starts whistling, and you can hear on either side of us a response, but you could never see anything. And that
Mm.
kind of freaked me out. I'm thinking, okay, there's got to be something here. So we're walking, and they're whistling back and forth. This girl knows how to whistle, without the fingers in the mouth. I don't know if you know how to
Yeah.
do that or
Yeah.
not, but
Yeah.
I was never able to do that. So
mm,
I'm just like taking it all in. And we get to the top of this hill and it goes down. I said, well, it kind of looks fun. In the meantime, we lose half the people. And it's only me and Walter and these two girls and the two, his son and this girl's son. So everybody else left. So we go down this hill and we're sitting there by this rock and he goes, you know what, we can't go any further to the beach because it's overgrown. Like they didn't take care of it. So
right.
so the little boy goes, oh my gosh, I see this black arm. So and I said, okay, let's go up this hill. I mean, it was like this huge hill. And I always have Skittles because I heard of this thing called gifting. So we go up this big hill and we go behind this tree. There's nothing there. And I look out and it's like springtime. There's some leaves on on the ground still from leftover from the fall. And I see nothing. There's nothing in the trees. There's nothing on the ground. I said, okay, let's just leave some Skittles. So I gave this little boy these Skittles and we put them on a tree stump. And we went back down. And on the way out, this little boy says, oh, look, there's a footprint. Yeah, one footprint. And it was the left foot. So I put a dollar bill there and it was 15 and a half inches long. So I figured that was the mom. And then next to it was one footprint and it was the same left side. It was not deep enough to take a picture of because you couldn't really, the ground in Ohio is like mostly clay.
Yeah.
So it obviously wasn't heavy enough to leave a print for me to even bother taking a picture of, but I knew it was a juvenile.
Okay.
So I thought that was pretty cool. Then they ushered us out of the, forest with the whistling. And I thought that was pretty fun, but I still couldn't understand why, I couldn't see nothing. So then, every year I went, things were really strange. Things strange. I'd meet people and we'd go out. They'd have different activities, and I know it's Bigfoot weekend, and you can't really say this or that because you never know if there's other people there doing crap. Excuse my
Yeah.
language. So, um, but every year something different would happen. Sometimes it would rain and nothing would happen. We couldn't go out because the ticks were so bad.
Mm,
Um, but one thing I remember that was funny was that I met these three guys, and my daughter happened to go with me that year with my granddaughter, and um, I went out with my daughter, and I would go up and down this Route 1, and I would just use some old shoes, these leather shoes, and do these like pretend wood knocks because that was what I heard, somebody would do. So,
mm,
and then I would do a whoop, and my daughter, thinks, Mom, this is stupid. What, do you believe in unicorns and fairies too? I said, no, but I know, these are things that really happened to me,
yeah.
and I'm not crazy. And she goes, well, she just was playing her. I said, she was just playing. She goes, she's doing some mumbling and some whooping, and just like mumbling. And in the bushes, you could hear her response, but it wasn't English. But she never heard it. But I could hear it. I just thought that was so strange. And to this day, she said, Mom, that never happened. I go, okay, whatever, you know. So I don't know if it's a selection. You know, some people can and some people can't see. Um, so that night I went out with these guys, and we just were in, and I felt safe with them because they were kind of like nerdy. And
No.
so I went in their van. I know that sounds bad. I went in their van and we went rolling. We went driving around, and we were out by the marina. And he goes, "Oh my gosh, did you see that?" And I'm going, and I didn't want to. I saw something, but I didn't want to say anything because they didn't want to sound crazy. I said, "Well, what did you see?" I saw a black leg, and now mind you, that little kid saw a black arm. So this is still the juvenile. I go, yeah, I saw it. It was like it had crossed in front of us, and then you could see like the left leg going up the embankment. So that was kind of fun. So I said, "We'll stop the car," and I sang a song. I sang "Over the Rainbow," and it just was real quiet. And then we went to uh, a parking lot, which was across the street from the Stone House, the trail. And we
Yeah.
just sat there and, laughing and just being loud. And you know how guys are just, they were worse
Yeah.
than girls. They were all talkative. And I just kind of was like, like quiet. And so they're all laughing. And all of a sudden we hear this sound like, it sounded like, like when you're driving. I don't know. Sometimes you hear like trucks, like grinding gears,
Yes.
like great. And so we hear that, and nobody really says anything, and it happens again, and they go, "What is that sound?" And and they said, "It sounds like a truck," and like it's trying to get the gears. They go, "Yeah," and so they they're talking and laughing, and it happens again, and I go, there's no trucks around here, and there can't be anything that big in this area. I don't think that's a truck. And no joke, they all scattered and left and went back into the cars. And I'm going, okay, you left me here out alone. The dad is probably laying down sleeping somewhere, and you left me here alone in the dark at 1 o'clock in the morning. What is wrong with these guys? So I thought, okay, whatever. It's obvious they're not going to do anything to hurt me. So I sang Over the Rainbow to it. That's something that I sang in college when I went to college. And so I sang Over the Rainbow. That got, quiet. And then we left. And we went to the cave there. And nothing happened. We saw a campfire, but it was over by the stone house across the lake. And there's nobody over there. So I thought that was kind of weird. So then as years went by, I started listening to the podcast because I finally met a good man, my husband, and he is he's from Peru and he's Spanish speaking, so he likes to listen to the TV, but a movie or something. So I started listening to the podcast,
Yeah.
and then I get into the group. So I'm trying to learn from other people. So in the meantime, um, I go back 1 year and I didn't have a place to sleep. And I meet this guy from Strasbourg, and he said, "Take the key card back to." I stayed with him in the cabin. He said, "Take the key card back in the morning," and so so I come back. I take the key card back to the lodge, and I'm coming back, and to the right I see this tall black thing, and I'm thinking, "What the hell is that?" And I stopped the car. Now, mind you, I had my camera in the car. It was like an 80s camera I took for to Europe, and I took it. It's been all over the world. So I had that in the car. I had my dad binoculars. I get out of the car and I walk over there, and I'm looking at my feet because I'm afraid I'm going to trip and fall or sprain my ankle. And uh, I get over there, and it's not there. And I'm going, "What the heck?" So I'm looking all around and I see a deer path. Like it was standing there and it was looking down, swaying back and forth. And I thought it must have been tracking this deer because there was a big pile there, big mud puddle. And I see the deer footprints and I see, a horse prints and shoes and boots and so on and so forth. but I don't see no a Bigfoot print. So I'm scratching my head, and I walk down to the lake, and I do a whoop, and I hear a whoop back. And on the way back, I see a tree branch is broken. I said, that's kind of odd. So I'm still scratching my head, and I'm wondering, where did it go? So
mm,
to this day, I have no idea. So when I listen to the podcast, they say, oh, the Nephilims and the fallen angels. So, in my book, I'm Catholic, and there's good and evil. And I know that said something about the giants and the book of Enoch. And so I'm trying to do research and talk to people and see what they think. And all I know is that there's good and there's evil. In the first book of Genesis, it talks about how Satan tricked Eve into eating that fruit, and
yeah,
God made it a snake. So who's to say that if these are descendants of the Nephilim, sometimes how when we grow as a person,
yeah,
like today's generation, like my grandson who's 10, they're not racist like people were back when I was young in the 70s. I was born in 61. So, a lot of racism, but people change. So I'm
mm,
wondering, like, do these, do these animals change? Like, do they change? Like, they can be good, they can be bad, but God eventually, can do anything he wants to do. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? And we
yeah,
don't understand, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, and and um, if people are atheists, I mean that's your choice. But when you look around at this beautiful world we have, and we're supposed to love one another, that's all we can do. Is like we're all God's children, and whether these things are from another universe or a fallen angel or what, I don't
yeah,
understand how some people can see them and some people can't. So I'm trying
mm,
to learn what kind of person is this. What kind of person has the ability to mind speak? That's something I want to learn too. The mind speaking, because I've never had that. Um,
mm,
my daughter, one year, I took my mom to Amish country, and I had
right,
my granddaughter in the back seat, and we kind of got lost because 62 was closed. So, and I'm not good with the detours and reading, taking directions. I just do what I want to do. Bad girl that I am. But
yeah,
we finally made it there, and on the way back, there were detour signs, and I remember my granddaughter was in the back seat. My mom had dementia, and I tried to get her out as much as possible. And we were at the railroad tracks, and it was where you had to stop, look, and listen. So I wanted to teach my granddaughter right from left. So I said, well, let's look to the right. And then we did. And honest to God, my mom probably didn't even know. And my granddaughter was probably like 4 at the time. I said, no, let's look to the left. And when I looked to the left, I see the tall brown Bigfoot, and it's crossing the railroad track. And I was like dumbfounded. And then after I go back to research it, I didn't say nothing to nobody because nobody probably was listening anyway. So I didn't say nothing to anybody. And after I go back to Google Earth, I look and see it is by a preserve that it's Brewster. It's kind of by a preserve. It's kind of wooded. So I'm kind of thinking, okay, maybe it came from there. So then one year, another time, my friend asked me, "Hey, I want to go borrow my brother's truck. I want to go for a ride." And I said, "Okay, what the heck?" So I'm in the passenger seat. So I'm looking at the window. I'm always looking for a Bigfoot. Now
Yeah.
I'm down that rabbit hole, so to say. So I'm looking, and um, and she's taking all these roads. And later on, I go, well, you know what? What roads did we take? She goes, why do you want to know? I said, because I saw a big, tall, black, ginormous. It was heading east to west. And she just laughed at me. She goes, Andrea, that is not real. That is not real. You're seeing stuff. And I'm going, okay. And I never said anything after that. And then, mind you, I've had a lot of experiences with when I've done some really stupid things and was in the nursing home a lot. And I always sing over the rainbow to people who are dying. I'm a therapist by trade. And I worked in a nursing home. I worked with children. Um, and I always sing over the rainbow to people who died. And and I remember a couple times um, I was sleeping, like when you're awake and not awake. I don't know how to explain that, but
Yeah.
um, I knew, like, one time I was singing to this one lady in this nursing home, and she was dying, and her daughter came out, and was sobbing. I said, "What's?" I didn't really know anyone was in the bathroom at the time. I said, "Why are you crying?" And she goes, "That's my mom's favorite song." And then I was like subconscious, so I kind of was like squeaking when I sang it to her. She goes, "Don't stop, don't stop." So I continued and I finished. And then, like, 3 days later, I was sleeping, and at that moment, like, you're kind of awake, and I smell the smell of old lady's perfume. And I'm thinking, okay, you're welcome. And I went back to sleep. So a lot of supernatural things, like, I'm very in tune with how do you say, like, I know when spirits are with us. I know
Mm.
the Holy Spirit is very very kind and loving. Prayers do work. I've had a lot of experiences with weird things as far as that's concerned. Um,
Can you
and
tell us about
they
some of the weird things that happens? Concerning.
um, not only smelling things, like after I sing this song to people, and I smell the smell of perfume. Um, and if I go to the cemetery and I put flowers and I say prayers to the family members, and the first time I put flowers on my dad's mother's grave, so it's at my great grandparents,
Mm.
um, and their family. I smell that smell again, but it's a different scent. Um, and the whole and there were some other things too, but I remember my girlfriend asked me at the time. I didn't really know her that well, but she lived in my mom's neighborhood. She goes, "Will you help me take care of my mom? She had bad Alzheimer's." And so I went over there. I can get old people to do anything. You just talk fast, and they get confused, and they do what you want them. They do what you want them to do. So I went over there, and I remember before she died, the day she died, she kept looking to the left of me, like she was looking at something. And I sang to her, and I held her hand. And that night, I found out she passed away. Well, in the middle of the night, flip phones. Remember the flip phones? I had an old flip phone, and it vibrated. And this was in the middle of the night, and I'm going, okay, who the hell's calling me at the middle of the night? So I opened it up, and it said Lynn's mom. I'm going, okay, all right. I said, okay, you're welcome. And, you know, God bless you, and have a good, afterlife. And so, just really everyone, like, and my sister died when she was 8, and actually I was 8, she was 5. She died from water around the brain.
Mm.
And a friend and I, she wanted to go to it was by the Tuscarawas River, like the Erie Canal.
Mm.
And it was like a let's mango. And it was like a psychic was there, and what do you call those? Like a psychic and a medium. And
Yeah.
I never really believed in that stuff. And I'm sitting there, we're having like some kind of like, I don't know, some lunch or whatever dinner. And then afterwards, this lady, you give her some of your jewelry, and then she reads, about, your past or something. I thought, whatever. She goes, you in the back there. She goes, I see a woman sitting next to you. And she described my grandmother to a T. And then later on, they took us on a tour and this ghost stuff, and we went downstairs and did the dowsing rods, and we were hypnosed. And I said, well, if you see my sister, I'm just, by the way, if you see my sister, tell her I said hi. So
Mm.
there's supposed to be some portal down there. I don't know. So I'm just walking around, doing those dowsing rods, and I don't believe in that stuff, but I did it anyway. And she goes, hey, that lady that's looking for her sister. I go, yeah. She goes, she's here. She's playing with a little black girl, a slave, and that was in a fire. And I'm going, okay. She goes, she wants to know if you remember this little dolly in the closet. And I'm going, oh shit, man. Yes, there is a dolly in the closet. It was my mom's, how do you say it? It was my mom's, what do you call it? It was
Mascot?
a closet where you don't get moth, a cedar.
Ah,
That's a good
yeah,
closet. So,
yeah.
yeah, there was a dolly up there, and my mom saved, you know, the things from my little sister and her clothes, and and then this one time, my sister had passed away, and she lives in Texas, and her husband were driving to or from a he's a helicopter pilot, and and he told me the story that it was really odd in the morning, like things were different, like there was a, I don't know, some kind of a bird, like a vulture up on the line, and it kind of swooped down, and he just thought it was like close to them, and he just thought it was odd. But on the way home, um, they stopped to go to the bathroom, and he said my sister said she just felt really weird, like something was going to happen. And
Yeah.
sure enough, this man was drinking all day long. He had a wife and children, he had a girlfriend and kids, and he wanted to commit suicide. So he was drinking, and apparently he went down into the traffic. And um, my brother-in-law said that he pulled over to the side. He could see the truck coming. And in Texas, the burns are like really big. They're as big as the road. So
Yeah.
he pulls over to the side, but my sister was right behind him in this truck, and she had the camper and the gasoline and the propane for the camper, and she just was hit by this truck, this car, and she was incinerated. So the sad thing was that I never got to say goodbye to her. And the weird thing was is that my parents were both in the nursing home. My mom had a broken femur. My dad went into the hospital for a pacemaker to put in. So they
Uh-huh.
were both in the nursing home, and my brother and I were trying to handicap the house. And Um, my mom and dad were opening a box from my sister,
Yeah.
but she was already dead. And I was like freaking out. And so my little brother, who's a doctor of the family, he goes, I got all these points from flying. He goes, I'll take you and my older brother to Texas and we'll go to the funeral. So we did. And I went out to the Galveston Pier and I was by myself and I was just talking to her, I'm praying, and talking to her, just to help myself heal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
gush of wind came through my soul and I could feel like love and peace and the most the most awesome experience. I have chills thinking about it. And I knew everything was okay. And I
Yeah.
knew that she didn't know I hit her.
Mm.
And so I know she's okay. I just thought
Yeah.
that was awesome. So then, in the meantime, my dad had passed away, and then my mom had passed away. And my dad was a hunter and a fisherman, and he had my three brothers. He always took them hunting and fishing. They never saw Bigfoot. That is so weird. So
They
um,
didn't. They never saw big. They never saw.
they never saw Bigfoot, and the only one I could tell was my brother who took over the family business. He's the only one that would listen to me. And so um, my dad, when he passed away, I always felt like I never was close enough to him. And I started doing wood carving and taking him wood carving. And I actually finished a duck that he had wood carved. Burned it and I painted it for him. And I felt that all the misgivings that um, I had with him are forgiven. And I can't explain it, but it was just in my head that maybe it was just me, I don't know, but I felt at peace with his passing. And then my mother passed, and I said to my mom, I said, will you be a guardian angel for my grandchildren? And she said yes. And she passed away, and I thought, well, maybe she'll come back and, you know, maybe she'll come back and give me a sign that everything's cool. So
Yeah.
I waited and waited and waited, and I'm thinking, okay, this is just sucked. And I went across the street, and I was getting a drink from Speedway, the gas station, and I see this young curly haired kid, probably in his 20s, and he's cleaning up this mess, that people made. I go, oh, do you work here? And he said, no. I said, but you're cleaning. He goes, yeah. He goes, yeah, that's just, I'm doing it just to be nice, just to
Mm.
help out. And then
Yeah.
he stopped and he stared at me and he goes, and I'm like looking at him like, what's he looking at? And he's staring at me and he goes, did your mom just die? I go, oh, yeah. He goes, well, um, somebody in your family could have done more. Your mom wasn't ready to die, but somebody in your family could have done more and didn't. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I was kind of mad at my little brother because he was the estate planner. And I thought, why didn't you get, physical therapy and occupational therapy? Why did you put her on hospice? So,
Yeah.
that's all I could figure out. So then he goes to me, in my head, I'm thinking, how the heck did this guy know everything
Yeah.
about this,
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
situation? And and he goes, your father has the last word. I'm going, what does that mean? And he goes, I'll see you in 8 days. Well, I never saw him again because, I'm too busy with my grandkids and I never saw him again. But I thought, I told this story to I do some Bible study, and
Yeah.
this one Bible study was the Book of Revelation, and the lady from River Tree Church comes there to our apartment, and she said, "Do you guys have anything you want to pray for?" I said, "Yeah, I'm looking for a good husband." And so for 2 years we prayed, and I finally got that, that wish. The prayer was answered. But in the meantime, I tell them this story about this kid who knew about my mom. And when I said your she said when I said when your father has the last word, I said that, and she goes, my friend said, "Yeah, God." I go, "What?" She goes, "Yeah, God has the last word." And I said, "I never even thought of that." I thought she meant like my dad because he was German and he was stubborn, and he was the person who always had the punishment. I thought maybe he had something to do with why she never came back and said goodbye to me, or I don't know. So when she said that, I thought that was kind of different, that she meant, God in heaven has the time and the day for when we die. So,
Mm.
if you've ever lost anyone, you know, actually, this is kind of like, just our soul goes to heaven, you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and
And
I don't
Andrew,
know if you believe in that.
What do you think? That guy at the gas station, w- when he said, I shall see you in 8 days. Was that because you were due back to go back in 8 days' time, or why did he say that?
No, no, I honestly, I didn't know where this kid came from. I didn't know anything about him. And I always was just looking for, my mom to like come back and, show me a sign. And, and then I ran into this kid, and then when he said 8 days, and I didn't go back in 8 days. I mean, I have other things to do, but I never
Mm.
saw him again. But I don't know where that came from. I don't know why he said that, but
Yeah, it's just
my,
a strange thing to say, isn't it? I'll see you in 8 days. It's
yeah,
quite specific. Specific, isn't it?
it was odd. So I have a lot of questions about life, and if anyone has any answers or has any, like, if you have anything that you want to share with me, to learn. I thought that was really interesting about the spark when
Yeah,
the sperm enters the egg. I had no idea.
yeah.
Um, I had no
Fascinating.
idea that happened, and
Fascinating. It is
I don't
fascinating.
know. I'm
Mm.
sorry.
It's fascinating. It's only recently they found that out. You know, that when a sperm enters the egg, there's a flash. There's a light that it gets emitted, and they believe it's a zinc explosion of some sort, but they're not quite sure what it is. To be honest, Andrew, they're not quite sure what it is. I like to
I
believe it's the
don't
fog.
understand.
Hmm.
And that's something that we can look into. So, if you have any experiences yourself, when you do your podcast, I would love to hear, more
Yeah.
about, because you get to listen to all these people,
Yeah.
and and
And if
so you know
if
a
people
lot.
Yeah, if people want to contact you, I'm going to put your Facebook. Do you want me to put your Facebook link
That's fine.
on the description?
That's fine. Yeah,
Okay, if I do that,
I'm all about people and learning and other people's experiences. I'd love to hear yours if you have any more research.
yeah,
Um, if people are lost, you know, um, that have turned their back against God, that is just something to pray for,
yeah.
to pray about, to ask for faith.
Mm.
Um, if people
Well,
don't, if people go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry, Andrew. I was just going to ask you one thing. Going back when in your account that you saw, and there was a Bigfoot running away from a stone building that had a fire. There was a stone building.
No, no, I did. I is that somebody else?
No,
I
you.
don't
You
recall.
said that
Yeah.
you were with a group of guys. You were with a group of guys, and
Oh,
you
oh,
passed
oh, oh.
some building that
Well,
had a fire outside. You didn't understand why there shouldn't have been a fire because there was nobody there.
oh, it was. We were traveling around in his van, and we went to the cave. There's a cave there at South Park, and we were just chatting and talking there. And the cave is by this a lake. There's a lot of lakes at South Fork, and across from the lake would be the Stonehouse building, and it
Uh-huh.
was something that was built a long time ago, and they made it into a museum.
Okay.
So apparently, way back when, things look differently, than today. But but across the lake, you could see a fire, like a campfire. But
Right.
there can be a campfire by the Stonehouse because it's not inhabited. It's a museum, and the park closes at dusk, so nobody should have been over there. And
Did you find that? Did you and your friends find that really odd?
oh, absolutely, absolutely, everything that happens there is really strange. And this past May, I took another friend down there on a Sunday. Um, the tickets are really expensive on Saturday, so we went on Sunday and we listened to the speakers. And I told them the last two accounts that I had, and uh, and it was weird because my friend and I did wood knocks and we did some whoops and we saw nothing, we heard nothing, and I just wondered. I want to know why some people can see and some people can't. Why some people can hear, some people can't. Is this the is this Satan trying to collect as many souls as he can before the end of times? I don't know. So
Mm,
I want to understand that. And this is, I know a lot of people are scientific, but this is not scientific. But I appreciate science, of course, and, research. But
yeah.
this goes far beyond science. So, if anybody knows, or is there a pattern? Like when people
Yeah.
call and talk to you, do you see a pattern of, you know, why? Or
Mm,
maybe you can look for a pattern. Maybe you haven't been seeing a pattern. I don't know. Have
yeah.
you?
Well, yeah, I think there is I'm a little bit more on the Dogman side. I've only seen one what we call Bigfoot, a Sasquatch, over in the UK. And that was at Cannock Chase, a big forest in the Midlands, over here. And I took a video of it. It was in the distance, Andrea, and it was between two trees. And I didn't see it at first. I didn't see the creature. I didn't see that. But what I did see was I thought it was a bird flying off from the brush. So you had the brush on the ground, and you saw this
Yeah,
kind of silver light streak coming up from the brush, and that caught my eye. Anything moving catches your eye, doesn't it? And I saw
right,
it, and I
right,
moved the camera across, and I captured it, and I don't think it was a bird. I'll tell you why, because behind it, I saw this large, it must be around about 10, maybe 11 foot tall, huge, up against the tree. You could see the tree as a contrast with height.
right.
Um, and it kind of like it threw something at us and then it turned. You can see it turning. And use slow motion to show it turning, and yeah, you can see it going back into the forest. So it didn't like us being
Yeah,
there, and it
I'd
flew.
like to see that.
Yeah, so that was about the only time. But I think um with these, the one thing which seems to be a thread that goes, a common denominator that goes through every experiencer, is um the feeling that it shouldn't be there. It's something which is uh absolutely alien to the experiencer. It's something that doesn't seem to fit into our realm. It doesn't fit into our
Right.
plane. Um, and,
Right.
and and we can't quite, everybody that's witnessed it can't quite get a gist of what it is. And you're an interesting person. I'll tell you why. Because of your job, you would be able to recognize, genuinely recognize, if a lot of witnesses have suffered trauma by seeing these things. You'd be able to recognize if it was a genuine, if they, wouldn't you? You'd be able to know by talking to them, by talking
That's
to them.
funny. That's funny
Yeah,
you should say that because I can read people like a book.
yeah,
And I know that
yeah,
sounds really strange, but that's something I have prayed for, that I would be able to distinguish good from evil. But
yeah.
um, I just wondered, um, like I said, I don't know why people see something. Like I think that was weird that my daughter never heard that them talking. It was like I'm sure it was a mom and a juvenile. She never heard it. She thinks I'm crazy. But
Yeah,
so the people with open minds, is it people that are um, that Satan wants to take their souls or try to distract them from, you know, being a good person, being a godly person? Is it? I don't know. I don't
I know.
know.
It's a strange one, Andrew. It's like, I personally believe that uh, people that people that this is another trait. People that say, okay, I didn't see it, and I don't believe in it. I didn't see it. I don't believe, and it doesn't exist, as far as I'm concerned. People like people who are like that, you know, they're less likely to witness a ghost manifestation. They're less likely to witness um, uh, a, a miracle of some sort. They're less likely to entertain the fact. It's almost as if um, this, what we witness, whether it be Bigfoot, Dogman, ghost, paranormal, knows that we're receptive to it. And because it knows that we're receptive, it gives us more. And people that aren't receptive, it kind of shuts the door on it, and they
Okay.
won't see anything, you know? Um,
Thank you.
no, no, no. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. And I will put your Facebook link here, because I think you will be a person that um, will be able to understand and help a lot of people. I think you could help people, who've suffered maybe some trauma by seeing these things. Um, and you're such a lovely lady. I think it might be a good idea for people, if they do, if people watching this, and you have witnessed anything and it has having an effect on you, then by all means, if you get in touch with the channel, um,
Mhm.
I'm always here. And Andrea as well. And I'll put her details for Facebook on the bottom here. By all means, she would love to hear from you. And and also, hear about your account as well. Because it's good if you share things. it's it kind of dilutes it somehow. It doesn't feel so compounded with yourself, as an individual if you share stuff.
Right.
Um,
I also wanted to ask about the orbs. I hear a lot of people saying about, you know, the alien Bigfoot connection, like UFOs and you know, the whole thing with UFOs and the Bigfoot. Um, I'd like to try to understand that more. And then I heard it on the podcast about some lady in Lima, Ohio, who was hunting and saw this like saran wrap like thing moving from one tree to another tree, and then to go find out later her, I don't know if it was her nephew or grandson or something, was at the high school and saw the UFO, above the tree line. That was another interesting story. If anyone wants to hear that, that's kind of odd. And then my
yeah.
brother, the one that listens to me, he was hunting and he was with a friend and another married couple. And my dad has some swampland now for real. He does have swampland down in
Okay.
Shreve, and he was with a friend and another couple. And then
Mm.
after the time was done, they were supposed to meet up. And then my brother said, "Now forgive me when I say this." My brother said, "I'm going to stop smoking pot and drinking." And this lady said, "Well, what happened?" And he goes, "I think I saw a UFO." I go, and I'm just listening to the story. And so my brother and his friend saw a UFO, and then the lady saw it, and the husband thought she was nuts. But later on, to go to find out that it was a disc shape. But later on, to go find out, his friend actually thought it was the satellite chains, like the lights. And I went to like a observatory here in town, in Portage Lakes, and I did observe these lights. They are like Christmas lights. They're like satellites. So that was something new for me. But my brother said definitely it was not. It was not those satellites that because they just look like a string of Christmas lights. But
Yeah.
so I've seen like when I have a star searching in the back of the apartment, and I like to star search, and I think this was a star, and all of a sudden it starts to zigzag and it disappears. So I put that on MUFON. I don't know, I just
Yeah.
that was
Did,
weird.
Andrea, did your brother ever describe it in any detail what he saw?
He said it was a disc shape, and they were hunting, and it kind of went behind a tree, so he lost visual sight of it because they're you know in the forest there, the swamp, and but he didn't see anything else other than that, but he just couldn't explain. He said he called up the local college and the airfield, and sometimes the colleges do research. They have a lot of things going on, and there's a
Yeah.
small airfield over there in Worcester. So he said he called all around and nobody had any, you know, flights going out that day, and the college wasn't doing anything, and so he's still stumped to this day. And he listens to my Bigfoot stories, and he goes, "Oh yeah, it's funny that there's only one footprint." I go, "Yeah, I know, right?" You know, so who's to who's to say, and I feel like a lot of people have blinders on. Do you know what I
Right.
mean by blind?
I know what you mean exactly. I know what you mean. Yeah, I do. I do know what you mean. It can be quite frustrating for a witness and an experiencer. It can be quite frustrating because you just come up against a brick wall. You know, you come and kind of it's hard to get past that wall. You know, it's hard to get heard
Get
because
it.
mm,
I mean, I
yeah,
couldn't imagine seeing a dog man. I thought that was just like made up. And I went to
yeah,
some like group meeting, and this lady telling the story in Bath Township. That's where my cousin lives. And she said she took her friend home. It was late at night, and she seen a dog man went through the garbage. And she said, "You know what, Andrea? It had clothes on." And I'm thinking, "Oh my gosh!" And one time I was sitting at my grandson that does judo at the
yeah,
YMCA in Navarre. And just for the heck of it, parents, some of them sit there and watch the kids. And to me, I'm not up to sitting on a bleacher. So I sit on a padded chair. And I said to this guy sitting there, I said, "Do you believe in Bigfoot?" And he goes, "Well, I've never seen a Bigfoot, but I've seen a Mothman, I think." I said, "Well, tell me the story." And so he said he was 14 and is on a trip in what is that? Con- what is it? Virginia, West Virginia or Kentucky, somewhere down there. And his
okay,
dad never stopped to go to the bathroom, and he was playing on one of those, I don't know, one of those machines kids played on back before the Switch, in the
yeah,
70s. And
uh-huh,
so he said he looked out the window and he sees this black thing sitting on the telephone pole, but it had these big red eyes. And he didn't know what he saw. He did some research. He said, "I think I saw the Mothman." And then he said, 2 weeks later, they had an earthquake in that area. I thought, I just thought, I thought, the werewolf or whatever you call it, the dog man was just a myth. And I guess, I just didn't believe in any of that until I heard other people's stories. So it's
yeah. It's
fascinating.
it is fascinating, and I think one of the most fascinating is this Mothman, and we have our own Owlman in Dorset, I believe it was, in a place called Mornan in Dorset, and quite famous, seen by a few people around this church and graveyard, and a little bit of woods nearby, and I believe two girls saw it first of all, two quite young girls, and yeah, they just like screamed because it had wings, had like these claws on the end of its feet, like these claws on the end of its feet, and like talons. And if I remember rightly from the description, it had red eyes, uh,
Yeah.
quite sizable, and then it just flew off with a screech, and it just flew off. It's crazy,
That
Andrea, crazy.
I'm gonna have to Google Earth where you're from, and if you tell me where these incidents are, I'll Google Earth it. And I love
Yeah,
to go to different places. Um,
yeah,
so I've been to England, but um, we only did the touristy things,
yeah,
But
yeah.
um, that was when Prince Andrew was still single, and
Oh, okay.
that was when Diana was still alive.
Oh,
So
okay. A
yeah,
little while ago,
I
little while ago. Yeah,
that was a while ago. I think I saw Robert Plant. I've always wanted to meet Robert Plant, but I don't know. I don't think that'll ever happen. But um, so um, I wonder why this dog man has clothes on.
mm, yeah, yeah. It's almost like
Why would
a werewolf.
why does he wear clothes?
No, it's like it harks back to the Lon Chaney days, doesn't it? You know, when Lon Chaney used to say, do you remember the black and white, the black and white films when he was chained to a chair,
Yeah,
and the moon was coming up on a little window behind him. You could see the moon coming up, and he'd be like, "Yeah, you got to chain me up. You got to chain me up. You can't let me go. You got to chain me up." And
Right.
you could see the moon coming up, and then next thing he would like metamorphosize into this beast. But his clothes would rip, but not totally come off. And it's a bit like that. Um, it's one of these things where uh, I've spoken myself to two other people that have witnessed the same type of thing. Um, and it's been funny enough in one of them was in quite a built up area, a suburb. Yeah, in a burb, a proper like kind of not in out in the country, not out in the
Yeah,
woods. It's been in a
yeah.
back garden of a suburb. Yeah, 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 yeah. Very odd.
That is.
Very, very.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this was talking about. It was near the home. There was a garbage can, and she had saw this wolf man. It's like that is so strange, and to see it with clothes on, I don't even know what I would do if I would see somebody or see something
Y-
like that. I have no idea what I would do.
Did you know the woman? Did you know her?
No, this was just a group of people that come together and talk about their experiences. And the guy that I met at Salt Fork, the one that we had those driving in the van. He
Yeah,
took me to this thing, and him and his friend. It was down in Zor. It was like
yeah.
a town meeting or something. I don't know what to call it, but everyone shared their experiences. But when she got up and told this story about Dogman, I was like, I thought that was just a myth. You know,
Yeah.
it was
No, there's a
strange.
lot, and it goes way back in history. It goes way back in history. The but you could construe it as being Little Red Riding Hood. Look at that story. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
everything has the one thing which in all cultures, this same story, Little Red Riding Hood. The one thing that stays true is there was a wolf that the girl spoke to. And there was
Wow.
a wolf, yeah, yeah, there was a wolf that the girl communicated or spoke to. That rings true throughout that fairy tale in every country. That's the one thing which pings. That's the one thing that is the same everywhere. She communicated, she spoke to this wolf. And that's crazy, isn't
And
it?
that mind speak, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah. But back in the day, they didn't know the term mind speak. But that Little Red
So
Riding Hood spoke
that's
to
so weird.
Odd. What
I,
I'll do is
I
coming up to Andrea is coming up to. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the people that are watching this?
well, just um, God bless everyone, and live life to the fullest and have fun, but just be careful because I remember the young little girl doing that little trick where you put two fingers underneath somebody's body and you keep saying you're light as a feather, and you lift them up. Well, I went downstairs one day to do laundry, and pure evil was in the basement, and I was scared, and I ran upstairs. I didn't do the laundry, and I prayed about it, and that presence was gone. But it took me. I never like going down the basement because when something is wrong and something is evil. So just be careful when you're out in the forest, and be careful what you wish for because it is real.
I, for sure, for sure. No, that's some good advice right there. I've got to ask you though, where was this house? What, where you felt this?
My parents' house. My parents' house. Um, it was actually my grandfather bought some land from somebody from my dad and my sister, and they had actually the house that my parents grew up in is right down the street from me now. Um, when they got married, they actually built the house in 1959, and I was born in 61. But this house was built for my dad, and his sister was in the backyard. They were building a house, but she ended up moving to Wisconsin with her husband. But this was in
Okay.
the basement. And as kids growing up, we did stupid things, and I never did the Ouija board. My daughter has
Right.
a Ouija board she puts out for no, 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 no. I said, no, no. And she said, "Oh, mom, it's just a prop." I said, "Well, don't play with it. Don't play with it." But I don't think I've ever told anyone about this story about being a kid and playing that game. And that was a game that a lot of kids did. And there was a lot of stupid, crazy things that kids do back in the 70s.
Yeah,
But
no, I
I just,
remember that. I remember that myself. It used to be there was two different versions. One I remember where uh somebody you sat someone down on the chair,
uh-huh,
and as you sat them down on the chair, there was a thing where there used to be a small group, maybe about four people around that person sat on the chair, and
yeah,
you'd have to put your hands on their head, press down, and then let go, and then quickly put two fingers underneath the chair, and you'll be able to lift them up.
isn't that
Yeah,
the stupid things we did when we were young?
yeah. What game was it that you played with the lifting someone up?
I was in the music, so I was going to listen to bands. I was always, I like to sing, so I was always at the concerts. So I
Right.
never really we I hung around farmers. We did stupid things like uh drive around the country, and we did that
Mm.
crybaby birds thing where you'd listen at midnight to you hear the train and then this baby crying. We did stupid stuff like the farmers used to take a tube and we go down the main street and it was used to snow uh, back in the I mean, like we had a blizzard back in the days. And there is such a thing as global warming because it doesn't snow like it used to. But we used to take an inner tube and all pile up on it and slide that, take the inner tube down the main street during the blizzards. But just camping and skiing and just being a teenager, going to concerts, and
What was
I
the
always want.
what was you sounded as if the entity or what you felt in the cellar was partly because of a game you played, you think?
I think that's what happened. We let the we let something come through, and it was not good. And let me tell you one more story before I gotta go. My husband just came home from work. Um, my nephew got married, and the priest, comes to the party afterwards to the reception, and he says to me, Andrea, you see anything weird in this picture? Somebody actually said the place where I got baptized at our church, this big black church, very old, and somebody set it on fire, and they ruled against it being electrical. I think this lady, people put petitions, down, and it's the Saint Dempna, and she's mental health. And there's a statue, and a place to kneel and say prayers for anyone who has mental health issues. She used to be at the psychiatric in Massillon, Ohio, the big institution here that was really old and scary. And kids were setting things on fire back then, so they brought her to St. Mary's, and so that's where she resided. And when the priest showed me this picture of where it was burnt, I saw right away what he was talking about, and it was a demon with a rod with hoofed feet, and it looked like it was dancing. Uh, and I don't know if it was that whatever you say, like you can look at something and see things. But I saw right away. He goes, Andrea, I sent these pictures to my friend, and he said, "Don't you see what is in your picture?" And he said, "No, no, this is a priest." He said, "No, I don't see it." He goes, "Well, there's a demon dancing around on the wall where the fire was, and this is where I was baptized. I actually have a picture of my godparents in that. And since then, they built it back and they fixed the church up. Um, but it was scary. It was scary to see such. I saved it, but since then I've had several phones, so I don't know where the picture is at now. Um,
Okay. If you come
but
across it, I would like to see it if you come across it, Andrea.
I'll text him. I'll text him. He was supposed to retire, and the bishop uh, asked him to retire, but yet they needed help in Cleveland, Ohio. So now he's back to work. And that
Yeah.
was very traumatic for me because they closed down another church. So, needless to say, there's one priest for like three or four different churches, and it's a lot of work. So, I know he's busy, but I'll text him and I'll see if he can resend me that picture.
Listen, thank you very much. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you coming on to the show. And I'm sure it's enlightened a lot of people. And the accounts you've given, absolutely amazing. I've enjoyed it,
Well,
really enjoyed it.
thank you. And I enjoyed talking with you. And if you have anything else you want to share or text me anytime,
Yeah,
like I said, I love to learn.
yeah, for sure,
And
for sure.
I, I will, look for your book. Let me know when it comes out.
Yeah, yeah. I'm busy. I'm busy writing it, trying to find the time to fit in to write it. But I'm hoping it'll be finished by the end of summer. So I'll get it released by autumn. I hope, or a little bit before Christmas if I can. But yeah, it's getting there. So and hopefully it'll with my it'll be half and half. It'll be my past accounts and accounts that I haven't mentioned before, and also projection, almost like prophecy. It'll be a certain amount because I have a lot of dreams and a lot of an explanation what I believe is going on. It's the part, but it's going to be a part one. I've got two other books that I've got to write in the pipeline, which will follow on from this one. But yeah, I think it'll be quite good. A bit controversial, but I think it'll be quite a good read. You know,
That's a nice little debate and controversy. That makes life interesting.
I think so. I think
I
so.
agree.
Yeah.
Well, good luck
Listen,
in your step.
thank you
Good luck
very
in your.
much. Yep.
God
Yeah, and
bless you.
I'll get you a book over. As soon as it's out, I'll send you the copy, okay? I'll send you a copy over. All right?
Thank you very much.
You're
Have a
more
good
than
rest of
welcome.
your. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye, Andrea. Okay, what a lovely woman. Great. That was absolutely fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Um, what a nice lady. And so genuine when it comes to wanting to find out. A lot of humility. Nobody knows all the answers. Nobody knows really what's going on, and we're still learning. That's what we have to realize. We're still learning. Um, and just taking information from all over and just see what can be pieced together. That's what we're here for. Yeah. Brilliant. Absolutely enjoyed it. And thank you for watching. If you can do us a favor, hit the like button. It really does help. And subscribe. That it doesn't cost a bean. And it helps the channel a lot. And it helps me to know I'm bringing you the right content that you want, you know? And that really does go a long way to help. So that I know that I'm bringing. Okay. Just want to say thank you very much. And yeah. See you again soon.